welcome to a look into the future. What would you do if you can go to the future and ask yourself questions? How do you grow your firm? How do you transition to advisory services? How do you provide real value to your clients? And more. Luckily, we don't need to invent time travel. We can just ask the time traveler himself, Paul Latham, and learn the knowledge we need at our firms today to evolve into advisory services and become the most relevant advisor to our clients, because that's what it's all about. And we're lucky because Paul brings three amazing things with him. Number one, he's built a successful accounting practice in the UK, so he understands accountants. In fact, he built his firm into an advisory powerhouse, which sold for $45 million in 2001. Number two, he's taken a business public, building it to a market value in excess of $400 million. So he really understands what business owners need and value, and what we as accountants need to provide to them. And finally, as I said, number three, we don't need to invent time travel. We can just ask Paul and listen to what Paul has to say about the transition he already made 20 years ago in the UK into providing business advisory services, as we're all working so hard today in the US to make that same pivot. I'm Garrett Wagner, your entrepreneurial CPA channel host, and I'm pleased to be joined today, Paul Latham, Hayden Rock Solutions. Paul, we've reached the end of the road for this section here, 6 key areas of business advice. We're going out with a bang. Number 6, culture eats strategy for breakfast, said famously by Peter Drucker. It's one of my favorite quotes. I love culture, and I can't wait to hear more about how we as relevant advisors can talk to our clients about the value of culture.
Yes, hi Garrett. I know this is one of your favorites. I know you like the culture stuff. We're going to be talking here, as you say, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Now I live in the US. I talk about creating a Navy SEAL culture. Obviously, when I was in the UK, I talked about creating the SAS culture, but we're here in the US, so let's talk about creating a Navy SEAL culture. Just before we do that, let me just get the slides on the screen. Hopefully you can see that. So just anyone joining late, we started this series in episode 29, introducing the key aspects of business advice. I've said many times, I think these 6 key areas, at least 80% of anything and everything you need to know about providing general business advice. So far, number 1, add value or efficient, or more likely separate. Focus on separation. Number 2, 4 ways to grow a business, segueing into the value proposition. Number 3, the 7 wastes. Number 4, are you going to grow your business using tangible resources or intangible delivery resources? Number 5, what you can measure, you can manage. And then today, episode number 36, key area number 6, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And again, as before, this is an area that's applicable to pretty much every business. And I was using that metaphor before of Navy SEALs and sort of use what I call the 4 key weapons of leadership. And the first of the, well, you'll see them there, we're coming up, we're going to talk about context and values and trust and momentum. But the first one we're going to look at here is sort of what I call the binoculars. It's establishing the context. And we're really talking about purpose and vision and plan. And it's really important for leaders to make sure that their team understand the purpose and the vision and the plan so that they can really truly understand, why does my job matter? And in particular, teams need to understand the purpose or the mission. Imagine, a team of Navy SEALs who were being sent out to do some sort of an operation, but they had no idea what the mission was. And why would you think it'd be any different with your team? So team need to understand the purpose, why we're in business, why their job matters. And that sort of links to number 2 here, the compass. It's all about values, establishing business values, so that essentially what we're really determining for the team is, so what's right, what's wrong, which is the right path to go, which would be the wrong path to go. Everybody needs to know general direction. I mean, sometimes the team, clearly, you can't always go down the one path. It might be a zigzag down the path, but we're still heading towards that ultimate destination, going down the right path. And that second leadership weapon is really providing what I call a moral compass for everybody in the business. What's right, what's wrong. And then moving on to the third of the weapons, this is the shield. So what you're doing as the business leader is amongst your team, you're establishing trust. Think of it here like a team of Navy SEALs. Could you imagine a team of Navy SEALs who didn't trust each other? The whole thing, they've got each other's backs. They never leave their dead behind, or whatever it may be. That those teams are a unit. They trust each other. They're together. It's very much getting the team to act as we and not I. And as I just said a couple of minutes ago, that team are focused on the mission, on the purpose, and they trust each other and they work effectively as a team. And then number 4, and it's a slightly weird weapon. I sort of call it the rocket booster. And it's all about establishing momentum. As a leader, you need to create momentum in the business. And this strongly links to that desire word that I use a lot, vision, plan, and desire. So we've, in the context, we've got the vision and the plan, but in the momentum, it's about the desire, and it's the desire to implement small changes every day in your business. See, it's really hard to imagine trying to push a vehicle from a standing start. That's really hard. But if you can get the vehicle moving, pushing it becomes so much easier. So if you can establish momentum in the team, gain momentum, then change becomes so much easier to happen. And together, those 4 leadership weapons, the binoculars, the moral compass, the shield, and the rocket booster, lead to context and values and trust and momentum. And you bring it all together. And that's when culture eats strategy for breakfast. And making that happen, key area of business advice, number 6.
Now, Paul, as you know, this is one of my favorite areas. So let me ask you this question. For most CPAs, is this an area where they would identify this as a weakness for the client and bring someone in to help make this change happen?
Yes, exactly. I think, you see, and again, we've talked about this in previous episodes. I think there's the world of difference between talking about something and maybe even brainstorming it to some extent, and then having the decision to implement some change. So, what we've just done, or what I've just talked through, that's the sort of stuff I would talk to a client about, so that the client gets a sort of feeling of, this matters. And by the way, I could go into a ton more detail about the types of team, 5 different sorts of people and so on. But we talk about it in general. And the business owner would say, actually, I need to do something here. Now, I know a little bit about this. I probably know more than a little bit about this, but there's no way in the world that I would be the right person to implement that change in the team. So that's where we seg from talking about it in overview, general advice, to implementation. And in an area like this, which is really critical, I would 100% of the time bring an expert in to help actually implement the change in the team.
So that's a key point, in these 6 areas of business advice. Some of them we can do ourselves as accountants. I know the last episode we talked about KPIs. That's definitely in our wheelhouse.
Exactly. And
I think we can talk high level and then we can implement it to the details. Where something like this, we're finding that distinction, like you said. We can queue it up. They're interested, and then we parse it out to somebody else to finish it up.
Exactly. And I think this is the thing, you see, we've all got strengths and weaknesses. We've all got key areas. So, CPA is probably listening to this. And as you say, probably they're going to be really focused on key area number 5 in terms of implementation, whether it's accounts, whether it's forecasts, whether it's KPIs, absolutely in their wheelhouse. But we all recognize our limitations. But I think the key thing is the difference between holding the client's hand, general advice. Everybody can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, now this is an area to focus on. Okay, that's not me. Let's bring in a cultural change expert working hand in hand. So always think of yourself like you're almost like the project manager for building the house when you're giving advice, but you probably aren't the right person to put the plumbing in. Let's bring in a plumber for that particular aspect, because they're good at plumbing and I'm not.
Yes, and that's why each firm will have their different little nuances.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Some might say I'm really good at KPIs. Others might say let me hold off a little bit. Some might say I'm really comfortable on value prop. Yeah. Others might back off. So you got to kind of know your limit and know what you're comfortable with.
Exactly. But recognize that you can talk at a high level across all of those 6 key areas, and that's as much as you need to know.
Yeah, that's going to get you in the door and get you started. So Paul, thank you for the time. Thank you for this great journey around the 6 key areas of business advice. If you missed one of the episodes, check it back out. They're all on the YouTube channel. You don't want to miss it. And speaking of not missing out, don't miss out on being ready for the future at your firm today. Ready to make that shift into becoming the most relevant advisor to your clients. And we think you need to know how ready you are. Take a couple minutes, sign up for your own free biz survey assessment, and see how prepared you are for the future. As a special offer for watching the show, we'll provide you the results and a quick follow-up meeting to see where you stand and provide some inside direction going forward. There's a link below. I highly encourage everyone watching to take the test and see where they stand. I want to thank everyone for watching. Don't forget, you can click to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And as always, we challenge you today to take action to change the world and invest in yourself.